This meeting of the Margate City Planning Board is called to order. Please stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Collins.
Here.
Clem Wozleski. Mike Richmond.
Here.
Jim Galantino.
Here.
Margaret Gubernalti. Mike Cristaldi.
Here.
Craig Palmisano. David Carter. Despina Hess. Remy Pelosi. Joe DiGirolamo.
Here.
Rich Patterson.
Here. This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do you want to do this? Adoption of the meeting schedule?
Okay.
Do we have the meeting schedule?
Yes, it's attached. It's behind it. It's a loose sheet.
Right here. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you just introduce it. I'd like a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2016.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to hear a motion for the approval of decisions and resolutions. Number 48, 2015, Edward and Nita Pettit. Number 49, 2015, Justin Kovacic. Number 50, 2015, Patricia Perry. Number 51, 2015, Timothy Kohler. Number 52, 2015, MJS Premier Homes LLC. And number 53, 2015, Stephen and Gail Kammerman. Clem. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. First case is Kevin and Tracy Grant, 7809 Burke Avenue, Block 1005, Lot 3, in the S40 district, to grant a C variance for right side and combined side setbacks and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. The subject property is an existing two-story split-level house on a lot of 60.75 by 70 feet, totaling 4,252 square feet, containing 4 bedrooms and an office on the second floor. It is proposed to elevate the house for flood protection to a first floor on the lower left side of 14.82, compared to the required elevation of 11 NAVD 1988. The stated purpose, as is often the case when a family endures the difficult experience of elevating a house, is to provide storage at the grade level on a lot that has no enclosed garage, but merely a single off-street parking space. Variance is required. This is one of those cases where the Margate ordinance was superseded by a state law prohibiting the preservation of nonconformities if a house is raised more than 3 feet above the BFE, which is the case here, by an additional 3.82 feet. Thus, the following nonconformities become variances. At the top, 3.82 feet of the house. right side setback, left setback, rear setback, and combined side setbacks. Comments. This is one of those cases that was permitted by right before the imposition from Trenton of a difficult law for flood-prone communities. Keep in mind that even with the additional first floor elevation, total building height is only 25.15 feet above the allowed first floor elevation of 11. So the house is still 3 feet below what zoning allows for a new house, and in fact, that pertains to the right side of the house. The left side is less than 17 feet above elevation 11. Number 2, elimination of the left side shed, no longer needed for storage, opens up space to the left side house and creates a bit more landscape area there, as well as lowering the building coverage slightly. As no internal changes are put forth in this plan, I feel the board can consider the plans of Endicott to be satisfactory, and especially in light of the difficulty families experience in terms of FEMA financing and bureaucracy. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Chris Bayless and Representative Grants, who own the property at 7809 Burke Avenue, coming before the zoning board, planning board, to elevate the existing home in order to comply with the new FEMA flood map standards. All of the variances you'll see that arise out of lifting the house are existing conditions, existing setback conditions necessitated solely by raising the house up within a setback.
Chris, so we can concentrate on what you're saying. Can we get the congratulations for the Christmas attire out of the way?
You know, I had this shirt and I put it on and I said I might as well wear a green tie.
There you go, thank you. I just wanted to, so everybody can now get off of that and start listening to what you're saying. Go ahead.
Is that mic on?
Yeah, he's not talking either.
I'll get louder as the evening goes on.
How'd you wake up?
Swearing, Chuck.
Charles E. Endicott.
Could you talk into the mic, please?
I do.
Chuck, you are a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey,
Yes.
and you prepared the engineering plan that's been submitted to the zoning and planning board for not only tonight's application, but should it be approved, for the working drawings that will be relied upon by the contractor and the building department when the house gets raised.
That is correct.
And the proposed work is not necessarily architectural in nature in light of the fact that the house is being raised structurally to comply with the FEMA requirements.
That is correct.
There are no, aside from whatever finish work needs to be done between the foundation and the existing structure, there's no architectural features being changed.
There are no changes proposed.
And in order to lift the house, a structural analysis, a structural engineering analysis has to be done to make sure that whatever foundation is existing can be used or not used, and then that whatever supports are proposed by the contractor will be sufficient to sustain the weight of the house on the surface.
Correct.
Chuck, what is proposed for the Grants house is simply to lift it to what elevation?
We are raising the house from, it's a bi-level house, so there are actually 2 levels. Essentially, we are raising the house a total of 8.8 feet. The one side will be a finished floor elevation of 16.15, and the other will be 14.82.
It'll be a finished first floor elevation?
Finished first floor elevation, yes.
What is grade generally in that location?
In that location, the average is elevation 5 or 6.
And what is the flood zone that the house is in, and what would be the permitted first floor?
It's in an AE8 flood zone, which means it's a minimum elevation of 8, plus the 2 feet of freeboard required by the municipality, so...
Did you say 2?
2, yes.
In actuality, AE8 Margate would be 3, so we'd be at elevation 11.
Elevation 11.
And the elevation we see generally across the lower first floor is what?
It's 14.82.
So it's about 3 feet,
3.8.
3.82 above what's permitted, is that right?
Correct.
And as far as you understand, what is the reason the grants want the extra 3 feet at that location, and what does that provide for?
The extra 3 feet basically provides a storage area under the lower side of the house that is a full-height walk-in area.
So that will give you at least head height for storage?
Correct.
There's no detached garage on the property, right?
That is correct.
And the shed that is there now is being relocated or removed from the site?
That is correct.
So the under the house will now be the storage area?
That is correct,
And
yes.
the higher portion of the split, what will that side be used for, if anything?
Same.
Storage?
Same storage.
No garage?
There's not a garage proposed at this point.
No, Mr. Patterson, no garage is proposed, it'll be storage and range. The head height on the lower side of the split, Mr. Endicott, what will that be with the raise?
It'll be just over 8 feet.
And if it were, I guess, 6 feet for the grants, that, I guess it's not really sufficient head height to act as storage area?
It's not a head height that is comfortable for you to access that area cleanly.
And as far as you know, are the mechanicals also proposed to be within that, we'll call it a crawl, but it's really a storage area, mechanicals going to be hung within that area?
Yes.
And that will allow mechanicals obviously to be out of harm's way should a flood occur?
Correct. It is required that the mechanical systems be above flood elevation as well.
And there is water back in that area being the creek fire. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
What are the variances that are brought about in what side yards by raising the house?
There are, I believe, 4 variances that are required. They are all,
Can you run through those?
yeah, yep, they are all for existing non-conforming conditions on the lot. The first is for a rear yard setback. There is a requirement of 14 feet. There's actually 14.1 feet to the building, but the deck that's in the rear of the house is only 8.1 feet. There's a second for the minimum side yard, a requirement of 11 feet, and there's an existing 3.1 feet now on the structure. The other is the total side yard of 22 feet, and there's 12.7 total when you add both side yard setbacks, and that's remaining unchanged. And the fourth would be for building coverage, where 33.7 feet, or 33.7% is permitted. The existing is 34.6, but that's actually going to be reduced a little bit by the storage area that's being removed.
And you point that out as a variance, only, although it's being reduced, it's still over.
It still exceeds the 33.7.
Technically, that change is a variance. And the setback deviation, so to speak, they don't get any worse or any better as a result of what's happening?
No, nothing's being exasperated. It's all remaining exactly as it is right now.
And there's no other changes proposed which necessitate any additional variances?
No.
That's all I have, Mr. Patterson.
Just back to the garage. You don't need a variance for parking, but it would be parking compliant if you did put a garage in. You need that much space for storage to replace that little shed? Could you just ask, just to...
Mr. Crane?
Okay,
Can answer that right here.
Okay.
Yes, no, so-
okay. You have to be sworn in.
Yeah, we just want, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Kevin, you heard Mr. Patterson's question and some questions from other board members probably is the necessity for actually 8 feet on one side with this lift and not using it for parking. The reason for that?
Talk over the microphone, please. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, it would just be for the additional space for the mechanicals and anything above, beneath the ceiling. If we, it'd be great if we did have a garage, but then I would have to get rid of half my front yard as far as access, so that's not going to work. But it's just for clearance for the mechanicals and the storage.
You mean you'd have to get rid of the front yard, by incorporating the driveway into the design?
Correct.
You live here year-round?
Yes.
You have...
Wouldn't you get rid of the driveway on the side, though, and move the driveway over? All that cement on the side?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You have a lot of cement already on the side that you would get rid of, and then you'd move the cement over here where the new driveway would be. Is that not correct?
No, we're keeping the driveway. So the driveway right now runs up to the shed.
I'm saying if you put a garage under the house, you would eliminate that cement, and you would have cement in front of the garage.
I hear what you're saying, Rachel. Actually, Rich, if you take the shed out, you've got a compliant situation, except it's 9.65 versus 10.
For 2 cars?
Oh, sure. With depth of lot, okay.
Oh, you could go beside the house?
Yes.
Okay,
Here, really, this is the driveway.
okay.
Yeah, it's a chance here, we take a shed out, gives you cars.
And Chris,
Yes.
in this application, it's saying that you're eliminating the shed?
Yes, yes.
So that's part of the application?
Yes.
Shed's gone?
That's the coverage drops, and then it still goes over, and that's why we try to...
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. Yes.
Microphone, please.
Am I reading the drawings correctly, that these are going to be exposed block walls?
Exposed block. There's a cement parging on the outside of it, so
Is there going to be any type of veneer treatment on the block?
it's just a parging, just a concrete parging finish, just a finished block.
And the only openings on all four sides are that one small window in the front?
That's what we proposed right now. If we do something else, we're going to have to get an architect.
You need one anyhow.
Yeah, I thought I would want that. I noticed that's simple.
So there'll be the window that's shown, and then obviously a door to access that area, just a man door.
I can't understand what you're saying.
The window that's shown, and then also a man door, a door to access that area, to walk into that area.
It doesn't show, that's why I'm asking.
It may not.
Mr. Wozleski, Mr. Grant tells me that there will be a window on each side, not shown on the plan, but when plans are submitted for building permit, a window will be shown on each side for light ventilation.
But no door.
Two doors.
The engineer's saying there's going to be a door, but now you're saying
Two
there's...
doors, it's 4 windows.
Where are they going to be? They're not on the plan.
Would you like Kevin to tell you generally where they're going to be in each wall? Is that?
Yes.
Kevin, would you show us, walking around the house, so Mr. Hollis understands, coming around the house, generally where are those windows going to be located, since we don't have an elevation of each side?
So a window will be up front here, back here, on this side, and then one over here. And the access door will be where the shed currently sits, and then back door back in this spot here.
Because the elevation drawings that have been submitted do just show blank walls. So what we're going to have to do is submit a revised plan for approval showing those windows and doors.
So you said 2 windows, Chris. He just said 4 windows
I
and
said
2
4
doors.
windows and 2 doors. Window on each side and 2 doors. Being a fireman in town, you would know how important it is to have that ventilation.
That's okay.
Just pretend.
That's all I have. Gentlemen, I'm sorry. But with that, you want to be part of the review process for those window locations?
Don't tell us how to do our job.
Over down the road?
No.
No, I was more concerned about doors for access. If there was a fire in the stairway area, no way to get out of the basement.
Those doors will be
There'll be revised plans.
shown and approved by the county office of building permit applications.
Mike, you had a question? You tell us what you just said? Any other questions? Anyone here from the public that would like to comment? Who are you?
That's what I'd like to know. Fred Verna, 7811 Burke Avenue. Uh, 7811 Burke Avenue. I sit on the creek side of the house,
The shed side?
the shed side of the house. I've been following the grant's application the whole way. I've reviewed the plans, and I understand where the windows and doors are going to be, and I'm completely in favor of everything they're doing. I don't see any reason why there should be any concern about them lifting the house and giving them the extra space underneath.
Thank
That's all I
you.
have. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Public portion is closed.
Nothing more, thank you.
Any other comments, questions of the board? Would you read it with the conditions?
The condition would be revised plans showing 2 doors and 4 windows on the foundation wall.
Like to hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Tom Collins?
As usual, we're faced with another house that's making changes in elevations due to Sandy. This is pretty simple and not too much involved in this. I don't see any negative impacts to the neighborhood. I'd like to know how often Fred Verna sits on the creek, though. You said you sit on the creek side, right, of the house? Often? I vote to approve the application.
Clem Osleski?
I'm going to reluctantly vote yes because it meets the flood regulations and it's below the allowable height. But I would urge the applicant to get a good architect and try to do something aesthetically with the stairs and porch. Because right now, it looks like an Atlantic City fire escape. Vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
I'm going to vote yes. I think that one good thing is they're not exceeding the height elevation, and I know there was a lot of houses damaged during the storm there, so I think it's going to possibly start a trend in that area, so I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantine?
We shouldn't even be here right now in this case. This case should not be in front of the board. It's time sensitive, it's agenda, blah, blah, and it's just ridiculous. I've been beating this thing down for 6 months now.
Can we write a letter to the city attorney or anything?
We already did that. It didn't work. I vote highly recommend this case because it's only trying to help the people get out of the ground. I mean, how simple can it be? I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
Here we go with another victim of Sandy and the bull that goes with it. I vote yes for it and onward with the project.
David Carter?
I vote yes, and, with the addition of windows and the doors, and it's just going to be an improvement and should happen. Thank you.
Rich Patterson?
I just want the applicant to know that this board has done everything we could to avoid having you come here or other people in your state, and we've been overruled at every step of the way. It's crazy that you should have to be here, but you do. Sorry about that, but we've been trying not to have this, so yes, I vote in favor.
Application passes 7-0.
Look at the tie from close up.
I know. Next case is Mike and Karen Bertolli, 7 North Benson Avenue, Block 221.01, Lot 73, in the S25 district, to grant a C variance for building coverage, front, side, and rear setbacks, and raising house higher than 3 feet above BFE and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
Roger Rubin? I do. The subject property is a one-story, single-family home with 3 bedrooms on a lot of 30 feet by 108.4 feet, which is 3,252 square feet. It is proposed herein via the plans of John Obolenis Architect to elevate the house to a permitted 13.0 feet, ABFE 88. Also proposes the construction of a second floor containing 2 more bedrooms for a total of 5, and a large family room, plus a second floor deck above but smaller than a new first floor front porch. Also proposed are rear decks on both floors. Variances required are front setback for the porch, First floor porch is at 13 feet 11 inches back versus 15.3 feet required. Building coverage, the zoning schedule states that coverage increases from 44.7 to 47.7 compared to 38.7 permitted by virtue of a fill-in of a former open porch during the elevation in the front right section. Side setback, the second floor as proposed complies. The fill-in on the first floor mentioned above at 2.53 feet back on the right does not comply with the minimum of 5. Also at that point, it is less than 10 feet to the house to the right. Rear setback to the decks, 22.9 feet is required. It is designed at 14 feet 8 inches. Comments. The board's site visits will inform on these various variances. This is a neighborhood and a block with a great diversity of housing types, housing conditions, and setback anomalies, and more so than ever, observation as to detriments versus benefits is important. Other houses may be elevated, demolished, or renovated surrounding this house. Existing landscaping, although copious in some places, appears neglected and may or may not be available for buffering. Number 2, the applicant's tribulation with FEMA as to timing and funding should be explained to the board as relevant. Number 3, the need for 8 off-street parking spaces for a 5-bedroom house is a puzzlement to be discussed. Number 4, this is a case where the board may wish to consider more than one vote as some of the parts are not entirely related.
John Oberlenis. I will, thank you. Good evening, John Oberlenis, representing Karen and Mike Bertoldi, 7 North Benson Avenue, Margate. The project basically is an existing one-story Cape Cod style house that we intend to raise to the FEMA elevation of 13 feet. The existing grade is about 4.5 feet, so we're going to have about 13 steps to get to the first floor when all is done. In addition to raising the house, the intention is to add a second floor above the existing structure itself, and that second floor would house a family room, a bedroom, and a master bedroom, a master bath. The Bertoldis have a large family, and the idea is that to expand the house where we can to allow for visits over the summertime, and et cetera, et cetera. So with this expansion, we're in need of several small variances. As you can see from the plans, the existing house is being raised to the height of 13 feet, which will create a large ground floor space, and which also resulted in multiple parking spots underneath the house. We're asking that we fill in the one corner on the beach side to close off the corner, not exceed the existing setback of the house, so basically fill in that gap and allow us to have stairs that come up the middle to approach the first floor. That was one of the first variances. It's a side yard and a front yard variance for that. As we get to the second floor, we pull the house in. It's a very narrow lot, 30 feet, and so the idea was that to make that second floor conform with the setbacks of 5 feet and 6.1 feet, except for a small portion at the back of the house where we have a master bedroom, and we're asking that we bump out a portion of that to line up with the structure below, but again, that would be a non-conforming setback issue. Now, what helps us a little bit is that our neighbor, as you face the house to the right, Mrs. O'Shea, has the house front-loaded to the street, so there's a very large backyard on her side, so the part that we're asking for the variance for the second floor faces her backyard. There's no issues with privacy and stuff.
John, is that house coming down to the right?
No, she's going to raise it. She's raising it also.
I saw the electric was cut off.
Yeah, she's going to raise it also to the 13 feet and create parking underneath the house. Very similar to what
Excuse
my
me
neighbor-
1 second. Are the Bertoldis here today?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Then he can speak for them, as long as they're here. Yeah.
John, go ahead, Raj. Is there 2 projects that Bertoldis have under construction on that street?
No, they're only working on their house.
Okay.
But they happen to know the neighbor next door, and she's trying to do everything at the same time as theirs goes up.
Okay.
So So again, the second floor addition meets the setbacks. The only thing that it doesn't meet is the closeness to Mrs. O'Shea's house to the right side again. It's less than 10 feet. You know, with a 30-foot wide lot and with us meeting the setbacks, we've already created a very narrow second floor, but we tried the best we could to make it work, and that's why we had to bump out a portion of it toward the back to make that second or master bedroom work with the master bath. Again, that meets at least in line of the building itself.
Is this their current house?
It's their current house, correct.
They just bought it, or they've been living there?
They bought it...
Okay, thank you.
Back to the ground floor, if we're allowed to fill in a corner, we're going to create those 8 parking spaces, and which includes the 2 outside and 6 on the inside, with a center stair approaching that first floor deck. Living on the first floor, which is going to be pretty high off the ground, we're asking for decks at the rear so that when they walk out, they don't have to walk 13 steps down, 13 steps up. They can walk straight out the first floor, straight out the second floor. They're not large decks, but they do go into the setback at the rear. But we figured keep them at a reasonable size that they can use an outdoor space at the rear. And the same issue at the front. We have a front deck that encroaches into the setback by about 2 feet. But again, we made it a comfortable deck where you can put some furniture outside, being that the ground floor is going to be a pair of driveways. Now, the one benefit of reworking the driveways, the double driveway to those 6 cars underneath, is that we're going to put back grass, we're going to have parking strips. So we actually took a sea of concrete and made it conform to your front yard landscaping, actually 65% versus the 60% required. Overall building coverage, like Roger said, because of that one corner being filled out, that we've increased the ground coverage, building coverage a little bit, but we felt that the street being difficult to park at in the summertime, that we're taking a huge load off the street by allowing all those parking spaces, again, for family, for boats, for wave runners, you name it. The space is there to get it off the street, out of sight, and allow the owners to use that space. So basically, that's the project. Some side yard setback issues, the front corner being filled in, the decks at the back into the rear yard setback, and the portion of the front deck in the side yard setback, which we created, again, not a very large front yard deck, but something that they can walk out from their living space and enjoy that street. And that's pretty much the case.
Sorry. Are you done?
I'm done, yeah, that's the case.
Any questions? Anyone here from the public would like to comment? Public portion is closed. Any other questions or comments from the board? Is there any conditions?
I have no conditions.
I hear a motion. Mike?
No conditions?
No conditions.
A second.
Tom Collins?
This is a tough project. You have a very small property in width and an awful lot of depth. I really think that this is being overbuilt. I don't think it adds any value to the neighborhood. I don't think it adds any value to the city. Having all these cars parked underneath and a house so big that, and 5 bedrooms on a 30-foot lot, I just can't vote for it. I vote no.
Clem Wozleski?
Tom and I don't always agree, but on this project, I have to go along with it. I don't know what Margate's coming to, but putting a 5-bedroom house on a 30-foot lot is just not acceptable. I vote no.
Did he vote?
Mike Richmond?
What did he vote?
No.
Yes.
Looking at the neighborhood, there are some new houses that have been built that have, in that neighborhood, that are fairly large houses. The neighbor next door is going to raise her house. They are providing 6 parking spots for the new house. So I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
The people came to me and asked me, what can they do? And I said, they don't want to park on the street because it floods there. It floods 2 feet of water on a normal rainstorm. So if you park your car on the street, it's underwater. So the only way to get the cars is to get off the street and put them in the lot. Normally, we try to resolve these issues before they come into the board because we don't want to take your time up, because the time we have as the board is very important. So I didn't realize they were going to park so many cars there, but I didn't realize that they were trying to elevate their structure to get them some off-street parking. It's something we need to look at in the future, but I really don't see how this is a detriment to that street, other than getting cars off that street that need to be off that street, off a flooded street. And I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
As Mr. Galantino stated, all the water problems and everything that are there and getting cars off the street, and another victim of Sandy with their own money doing it, I vote yes.
David Carter?
It's a difficult situation, a difficult street. There's a water problem. They're trying to do without knocking down the house and putting a new one up. I think probably doing as much as possibly can. I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
It is a difficult one. I sympathize with all your needs, but I have to agree with Tom. I think you're trying to put too much property on a 30-foot lot, and I vote no.
The application passes 4-3.
Thank you.
Will the property owner please come sign? Or John?
No, not John.
Okay. The property owner? Mike? Oh, there you are. Sorry, Karen. Yes. Just sign.
Next case is Family Brick 3 LLC, 9401 Ventnor Avenue, Block 228, Lot 84, in the CBD District to grant a C variance for parking and site plan and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. Excuse me. The subject property is a commercial building on the northwest corner of Adams and Ventnor, presently housing John's Steaks, a through-the-window takeout restaurant, and Eye Candy, a confection store. This building sits right next door to Shucker's Restaurant, which in turn sits to the right of Johnny's Restaurant. The subject property sits on a lot of 50 feet along Ventnor by 75 feet along Adams Avenue for a total land area of 3,750 square feet. It is proposed herein by this application and the plans of Peter Weiss Architect to develop in this building a new casual-themed eating and drinking establishment, as I understand, Mexican-themed, with indoor seating as well as some outside seating under the existing metal roof, which would be fenced in and totally within the property lines of the establishment. As part of the proposal, there will be a small building addition in the core of the building, not visible from surrounding buildings, to round out the floor plan. A connecting storage pass-through to the Shuckers building and a new walk-in box facing Adams Avenue, accessed safely only from inside the existing building, from the kitchen area. A diagram of seating at tables inside and out, plus bar seating, also inside and out, is 80 seats in all. Existing landscaping along the building's perimeter is to be retained, including also the 2 street trees as shown on the plan. Handicap accessible bathrooms are also planned, as well as a handicap ramp to the restaurant's front door. The exterior will be upgraded and updated with new windows and other aesthetic improvements, as well as new signage. Actions required are site plan action for the restaurant, wherein the board determines if there are any site issues insofar as safety, aesthetics, access, and the like. A C variance for building coverage, 60% is permitted. It is 66% now, and it would be increased to 72% because of the above-mentioned fill-in of the interior open space. And a C variance for signage. The proposed sign facing Ventnor Avenue says it is 30 square feet, which is permitted, but it scales at 42 square feet, and 35% is permitted. Also, per Section 175-26K5E, which you're all familiar with, signs may not project beyond the top of the wall. In this case, it projects beyond that by about 3 feet. Comments. As to the building coverage, the area being enclosed is not visible from the street or any adjoining buildings. It is merely the enclosure of an open donut hole, visible only from the sky above, and needed in this case to make the floor space workable. Also, the area being filled in is already solid concrete, so there are no permeability or landscaping issues. 2, regarding the site plan, it appears workable, safe, and well thought out. The outside bar would be closed in by folding doors after hours for safety and security. There is handicap accessibility, and the restaurant floor does not appear overly crowded with tables. The brand-new restaurant kitchen appears more than adequate for the dining space, and the outside bar area also allows for a waiting area during busy times. That would be a waiting area which would be off of the public right-of-way. Number 3, according to my calculations, there is no parking variance. The previous requirement was 22 spaces, calculating building square footage and outside pickup area per code. The new requirement is for 16 spaces. There was and is no on-site parking, so the reduction in deficient spaces means there is no variance. I just want to clarify that a little bit. The new restaurant facility will have 80 seats. The ordinance says that you have to have 1 parking space for every 5 seats, which means 16 parking spaces. Previously, the area of square footage of the building required 10 parking spaces. I'm sorry, the area of the square footage of the building was 2,538 square feet. You needed 1 space for every 200, which means you needed 12 parking spaces for the candy store. And the restaurant was basically a takeout area of 47 by 8, but I calculate 47 by 5 as a pickup area, which is 235 square feet, and you need 1 space for every 25 square feet of pickup area, which is 9.4 spaces. Let's round that to 10. So the 12 for the interior space and the 10 for the pickup area is 22. The 22 spaces were required. There were none. In this new restaurant, 16 spaces are required, so that's an improvement of the deficiency. No parking variance. Number 4, in any case, still on parking, we note that the applicant recently purchased a rather large parking lot across the street and then enlarged it by buying and demolishing the pet grooming store, and carefully manages that lot such that it serves all of his restaurant facilities, including Johnny's, Shuckers, and the defunct Johnny Steaks. In fact, I don't believe that lot was available to the candy store, but it now is to the new restaurant. This lot, previously rented but now wholly owned by Family Bricks, has greatly relieved the parking burden in this part of town. 5, if approved, it is the applicant's burden to secure liquor license expansion with the city, which is not within the purview of this board. 6, I would suggest a 3-foot evergreen landscape area in front of the new walk-in box on Adams to aesthetically soften that wall and provide a bit of water percolation. 7, as always, trash storage and removal shall be handled per the requirements of the city's recycle officer, Mr. Adler of Public Works. 8, the sign variance should be discussed and acted on or revised to comply. If approved, this will be another positive contribution by the Family Bricks organization to the commercial vitality of Margate City, acting as not only a venue for residents to enjoy their Margate experience, but also a catalyst to the business community and the positive image of Margate. No additional conditions are suggested at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin and members of the board. My name is Chris Balanson. I represent Family Bricks with respect to this application this evening for the property that they own at 9401 Ventnor Avenue. It's identified on the tax map as Lot 84 in Block 228. It is in the central business district on Ventnor Avenue, which is Margate's broadest business zone, so to speak, allowing the widest variety of uses. What is proposed this evening is to convert what we previously knew as John Steaks and the candy store, which was also in that building, to a single-use building for a restaurant and associated bar. It will be a Mexican-themed restaurant, something new aside from Mr. Galanis' jalapenos on Washington and Ventnor Avenue. The use that is proposed this evening is a permitted use, so there is no issue with respect to whether or not the restaurant's allowed, the food service is allowed, or the bar is allowed. They are specifically permitted uses at that location. The discretionary action of the board this evening is for the connection of the building at this location. It would be the connection of the building to the Shuckers building, also owned by the applicant, for purposes of ease of access between the buildings for storage, supplies, materials, between the Shuckers restaurant, and also that connects to the Johnny's restaurant, all owned by the same entity. It eliminates what is nothing more than a dead space between the restaurants, about 2 feet wide, and serves really no purpose. This kind of makes sense for the operation of the restaurants, because what I didn't know and what John tells me is that if Mr. Patterson were to be at the new place and want oysters, the servers are not allowed to go get oysters next door or anything for that matter, walk it outside and bring it back in. Now with the buildings being attached, that can happen.
I vote yes.
There you go. That is a coverage, that adds to the building coverage of about 5%. In the CBD zone, 60 is permitted. I think we're at 66. It goes to about 71%. With that having been said, it's really a non-starter because the building coverage, it's not taking up anything that drains. It's concrete on concrete back there. And as I said, it eliminates what is nothing more than a 1 foot to 2 foot separation between the buildings in a dark kind of nondescript area. The variance is pointed out by Mr. Rubin. Roger, I do believe that sign will scale correctly. I think the variance you're speaking of is the fact that it protrudes above the highest element of the building? Yes. That then is a variance we will ask for. In light of the fact we have intentionally kept it below the parapet feature at the front of the building. And the logo really doesn't lend itself to a long, skinny sign. So if the board would consider that, we have noticed in a manner that would incorporate that variance. Peter did the plan. What we're going to see really is a complete gut and renovation of that building. It will be incorporated. The floor plan will be a bar and restaurant seating of approximately 80 seats. It will be open to Ventnor Avenue. There will be about a 48-inch knee wall along the Ventnor Avenue facade, then with overhead garage-style doors. So when they open up at 11 o'clock for lunch or for late breakfast, whatever it may be, what will happen is the garage doors will go up and the place will be open. We spend a lot of money in Margate on the streetscape with pavers and with street trees, tree grates. It will be nice, I think, and I think some other people will agree, to be able to enjoy that environment, to sit and have lunch and have it open to the sidewalk, kind of enjoy that street traffic and foot traffic shopping in an area of town which, but for Family Bricks, 10 years ago was dead. No action. It has been a remarkable turn of events, and I think primarily due to the applicant here tonight. And what's astonishing and we don't realize is with this restaurant, and if we and if Family Bricks didn't do this corner, somebody else is going to do this corner. This corner is going to be a viable, higher intensity commercial use because of its visibility, because it's a good corner and a good business zone, and it's desirable. But with this restaurant, I mean, these guys employ 125, 130 people, and a lot of those are Margate kids, home from the summer from college, whatever it may be. But that's a real positive element and aspect of this proposal. It's good for the community, and it's something that goes unnoticed, really, but for the fact that these guys really make an effort to keep that local. I'll have both John and Peter sworn at the same time.
I missed what you said. What about Margate kids?
They employ a lot of Margate kids.
Oh, employee.
Back home from
Okay.
college or
Got
whatever it may
it.
be,
Got it.
And make an effort to do so.
Chris, there's a, for the sign area, it's only going to be 30.
Sign area will comply.
Right, okay.
It's the fact that it reaches
The sign height, essentially.
So you're saying it's going to be 35 square feet, Chris?
sign between this height if we were to drop down on the building. That's okay. The fact is that
It's above the line of,
right.
right.
Is it going to stay that way?
So you're going to need a variance.
Try to leave it that way because the logo really doesn't lend itself to be long and skinny, and it's within the size, Rich, of that parapet.
So that's what the variance is, right?
All right.
Did you say it's going to comply to the 35 square feet? then?
Yes.
So you're cutting the 7 feet off?
It's just a matter of how it's scaled. Peter says it's scaled fine, it scales to 35. Roger says it doesn't. We will make sure that it scales correct.
You need to get them both in the scale.
Whatever.
And as far as the Rogers landscaping on the side street over the box, you're going to agree to that too? That's...
I made a mistake. It's 5 wide by 6 high. It's actually 24 square feet. I must have changed scales. It got, 5 by 10 or something like that.
So there is relief required, but it's for the fact that it goes up over the edge of the building.
Now you know why we're getting rid of them?
John and Peter, together, please.
Johnny Liccio. John Liccio.
Peter White.
Thank you. John, I will start with you. Peter, you are a licensed professional architect and prepared the plans submitted to the board for their consideration this evening.
Yes.
Would you simply, without me walking you through it, just take the board through what's there and what's proposed and the changes at the site? I'd make reference to your exhibits, if you would, for the record.
Okay, I'll start with my A3, which shows the existing floor plan of the building. The current building is occupied, or was occupied, by John Stakes, which took up the front left portion facing from Ventnor Avenue. And then the candy store was the corner, and then it sort of snaked around to the back and occupied the whole rear section also. Currently, there's this little 14 by 17 recess on the side of the building. Not quite sure why it's there, but right now it's basically just a concrete area that has little use. So the proposal is to develop the building as a single restaurant. There's a connector that'll connect Shuckers to our building in a manner similar to the connector that connects Shuckers to John Stakes. So there's a storage area, but it would also allow passage from one building to the other. So what we propose to do is fill in this notch on the side, which adds about, between that and this connector, about 260 square foot of coverage on the lot, building coverage. As I mentioned, this area is shielded. You can't really see it from the street. It's not visible from the street. It's all concrete, so it doesn't really add to the visual mass of the building. And since it's all concrete now, it doesn't contribute any runoff. So the development of the project, we have the kitchen in the back, the bar in the front here, which will be open to the street. This drawing is showing stacking doors. We since decided to go with an overhead door system. So they'll be sort of like garage doors that'll pull up into the ceiling. They'll come down and be at about 42 inches off the ground, which would be the bar height. So the bar will come along here, and you can sit either outside at the bar or on the inside. This wall here is going to be all shelving for liquor and glasses and things like that. And then behind that, this is all seating towards the left side behind the bar, and then over here with bathrooms and a couple booths. We're maintaining the entrance off of the corner, but because of the fact that the building sits right on the property line on Adams Avenue, we have to sort of truncate the entrance. But right now we're proposing a ramp coming up to a landing, and then you'd come in the building that way. As you know, the existing building is one-story stucco, which kind of lends itself to the theme of the restaurant. We're going to keep the metal roof on the outside, and then these windows here would all open up to the street, so it's very visible from the street. Excuse me? Okay, sorry.
The building's currently one story, it's going to remain one story.
Yes.
The footprint, so to speak, of the building remains unchanged, but for the fill-in of that notch on the Longport side.
Yes.
The exterior treatment, as you said, it is stucco, it will remain stucco because of the theme, and will be painted a color that is consistent with the theme. The interior of the restaurant, the interior of the space has been primarily gutted will be reconfigured for the floor plan as you have shown.
Correct.
The interior fit out, so to speak, is going to be all new.
Yes.
The new kitchen, new utilities, et cetera,
Everything's new, yes.
Generally, from the outside, the front door location will remain unchanged.
Yes.
And really the primary change that will be seen from the street is the overhead doors located along the wall now, really where John Steak's ordering and takeout area is.
Yes.
And would you explain to the board, if you would, how that the overhead doors there lend themselves to the operation and what the purpose is?
Well, the purpose is to open the building as much as possible to the street for exposure from the street. So the doors will go completely up into the ceiling, and you'll have a larger opening than currently exists with the takeout windows.
It's not going to be a situation where I can walk from my table outside, because there will be a separating wall of approximately
Yes.
between 3 and 4 feet high.
42 inches probably, yes.
So somebody can't come off the sidewalk and walk right through into the restaurant. Somebody does have to come in the front door, be seated, and then proceed with ordering whatever it is.
Yes.
And is there outside seating proposed within the property line?
Yes, and that'll be separated from the street by some railings that we have in here, similar to Shuckers next door.
It's a little bit of the property line extends right out to the edge of the sidewalk, and the building sets back. While it appears as if people were seated within the right-of-way, actually any seating proposed will be within the property line.
Yes.
And along that Ventnor Avenue property line will be a railing system separating the business operation from the sidewalk.
Yes.
And so again, it won't be a situation where the service of alcohol or the service of food, for that matter, will be open to the street or to the sidewalk. It will be contained within an area that's either walled off or separated by railing.
Yes.
Tell us then, with the coverage variance, what the percentages are, whether or not you think that variance, in light of the conditions that exist there, can be justified.
So the existing building coverage is 66%. With the addition of filling in the...
Peter, I can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. The existing coverage is 66%. When we fill in the notch on the left side, we add 6%, so it goes up to 72%. As I already mentioned, my opinion is that it doesn't add any mass because it's not visible from the street unless somebody told you it was there, you wouldn't know. So it doesn't, it doesn't do anybody any good by not having it, or by maintaining the outside space. It's just kind of useless space. And if we don't have it, it would make the development of the restaurant itself kind of awkward, because then you'd be working around this big hole in the middle of it, if you will.
The alcove that's being filled in, you can't, for instance, you can't see that from Venter Avenue. You're walking down Venter Avenue, you look down the alley, you can't see this cutout in that building, beside that building.
Right.
And aside from the coverage variance noted, all the other bulk criteria fall within ordinance requirements or are either grandfathered because of the fact that the building is existing.
Yes.
And the sign relief that is required is merely because of the fact that the top of the sign approaches beyond the top edge of the roof. Would you tell us
At that
reason
location.
why we would like to keep the sign in its current configuration and is shown on the plan?
Well, the Leach has developed a logo that they'd like to use, and unfortunately, or however you want to put it, the logo is fairly vertical. I mean, it's almost square, but it's taller than it is wide.
Could you show us?
Show you what?
Do you have the logo?
Well, this is it. I mean, it's a little small, obviously, but okay. Well, it's 5 foot wide, 6 foot high. So, I mean, the space available is kind of long and low, and it just doesn't lend itself to that particular space.
There's not much wall space to work with above the canopy that covers the seating, is that right?
I can tell you what it is.
Oh, I don't see it.
It's probably less than 4 feet.
And the dimensions of that sign located the requirements we have.
Yes. Oh, they're slightly smaller, yes. Or it is slightly smaller,
And
yes.
there is no sign proposed on the Adams Avenue facade, which would be permitted, but there is a second sign that will put a parapet above the front door. Is that right?
Yes.
So the sign along Venter Avenue, however, is for Venter Avenue traffic to be seen because that parapet really is on an angle toward
The corner, yes. It's a 45-degree angle,
Atlantic
yes.
City, right?
Yes.
That's all I have for Mr. Weiss. Anybody has any questions for him, he will be here. He's not going to.
We can't hear you without the microphone.
That's what Peter, I couldn't see when you were showing where the doors actually come down for the bar outside. Does it sit on top of the bar?
Yes.
Is that what it does? Okay.
Yep.
My next question is, if I look at the existing setup now, where you go up and get your sandwich now, is that bar going to be inside that sandwich area? Is that where it is? Okay, so it's really set back. The next question is it a seasonal operation?
No. It's going to be over here where, John's going to give us an idea of how
Okay.
things going to operate.
Thank you.
Good with Peter, though?
I don't need that. I'm good with Peter, yeah.
I need Pete. Pete, keep the microphone. Just a second. You said that there's 2 barrier-free bathrooms going in. Are they on the Adams Avenue side? Is that where they're going to go?
Yes.
All right. There's a ramp that goes into the front of the building. It comes off the deck. How do you get to the ramp from the deck if you're in a wheelchair?
Oh, you'd have to come through the middle here and go around.
But the stairs.
Excuse me?
There's stairs.
No, there's no stair there.
So you'll be able to go up right through the front and out through the door?
Yes.
All right. How about, now, the kitchen has a large cooking area in the back. Is there any chance, John, we can maintain the hood system so it's not closer to the property line? It looks like you're 2'9", because that's where the egress is for the apartment next door. Remember, we got that egress element with the fire inspector to get in and get out. There's going to be a big ansel system in that back of that restaurant, so I can see in the other unit next door, on Shuckers, you have it pretty far back, like 15 foot. Here, it's going to be close to like 3 to 5. Where were you thinking about running that ansel system, hood system?
Give him the mic, Pete. Pete. Pete.
Yes.
Give him the mic.
Well, when you do the answer system, you got to be 10 foot away from an existing building. So the way it measures out, it will be at least 12 to 14 feet from the first building that's behind me.
Okay, so you're talking roughly from the back wall where the doorway is that goes into the old office. So we're going another 3 feet past that, or is that going to be right on that wall?
And it'll be about 3 feet past the wall.
Okay.
It doesn't go right against the wall, it goes somewhere in the center.
3 feet from the edge.
Yeah.
And at that location, John and Jimmy, you've also got that double-loaded driveway on our property, which doesn't exist as you go toward Chuckers, and you've also got a double-loaded driveway of the neighbor.
Okay. And the last question I have is the metal roof, the awning that you have over the top of the sidewalk. Is that going to be the same awning, or are you going to keep a different, put a roof system on?
Same awning.
Same awning. With a gate and a fence and a railing going around it with
Correct.
an elevated deck? No deck?
No deck.
You don't want a deck like next door?
I don't know if we could get one over there, we gotta wait to see the elevation first.
Okay. Thanks.
It's either going to be at grade or slightly elevated.
Exactly.
One more question. Landscaping, it shows a bunch of new hedges or hydrangeas or that you have on the plan. Was there a landscaping one in here? Right here, I just...
That's existing.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Pete, I don't know, call it service, you've got 8 stools at a counter towards Ventnor Avenue.
Yeah.
What kind of service is going to be there? Is that for,
Well, that's on the bar. I mean, it's facing the bar.
Bar right there.
so you're going to be serving alcoholic drinks almost on the sidewalk?
John, wait.
I said you're going to be serving alcoholic drinks almost on the sidewalk? People sitting on bar stools?
Can you envision that where the takeout windows are for for John Steaks now? Be at that location. When the overhead doors come down, they essentially come down on top of the bar.
But you're not serving steaks, you're serving booze.
And food, just like they do across the bridge in Philadelphia.
We're not Philadelphia. I said, we're not
I
Philadelphia.
understand that, but it's not a concept that's
No, it just makes me a little uncomfortable that the people sitting there on bar stools drinking.
Isn't it the same at Chuckers, though? Does that make you uncomfortable?
No.
Yeah, it is.
Well, they got tables there, but not bars. It's not bars.
Well, you can get drinks there. You can get drinks outside.
It's not the same thing.
All right. Well, there'll be a dress code then.
Say again?
There'll be a dress code.
Wait.
I'm sorry, Glenn, you good?
No, I'm not. I don't like the idea.
You don't like the fact that there's open air seating where you can get a drink? Just so I can get that addressed.
If you're having drinks at the table with food, yeah, but some guy sitting there getting loaded a few feet from the sidewalk and you're walking past with your kids or grandsons, it's not very nice.
Mike, do you promise not to go?
Hey, Clem,
Everybody's talking.
at $15 a drink, they're not going to sit there and get loaded. They're going to sit, eat, and move on.
You know, also, doesn't Roberts have outside seating, and they allow drinks to be outside, right? Yeah. They don't? Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind.
You just, you're in trouble.
So we don't do this piecemeal, why don't you take us through the concept, what you're right, what you and Joanne thinking was, how it came to fruition, John Steaks not necessarily working out, how we ended up here tonight.
Well, it wasn't that it wasn't working out. It's just that it was just a seasonal business. And then when the candy store lady left, we saw an opportunity to do another concept. And the whole concept of the Tipsy Taco Tequila Bar was that inside-outside look, like you're in Mexico or you're in Florida on Lasola Boulevard. And the outside, it's under the roof, which is on my property, not on the right-of-way. And we will be serving food there. Our main thing is food. You know, we're bringing another venue to the avenue to give people a different choice than the same old restaurants. Mexican is a very popular food right now. The inside is going to be beautiful. We're going to decorate it as you see the other places. We maintain the properties to the nine. But the concept of the inside-outside bar is very huge for us because it just gives people, they can come off the beach, they can sit down, they can have a couple of tacos, some guacamole, some chips, and they don't have to feel like they got to come inside all dressed up. It just gives another venue to the concept, which I think is a pretty good idea. And people driving by, people want to see what's going on. If you've been on the block during the summer between John's Steak, Shuckers, and Johnny's Cafe, it's like being on the boardwalk. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody wants to be there. And it just gives people another place to go. Then have to wait 3 hours to get in Shuckers. Not that I mind.
John, we were talking earlier about, I guess, the margarita service. It's not just like you open up a bar for people to come drunk. I mean, it is an accessory or complementary to the thing.
And like I was saying, the whole concept of the tequila bar is to give the people, like husbands and wives, to get there and have a different flavor. We're going to have 22 different kinds of margaritas. Maybe you like a straight one, but he likes a peach one.
I like the oysters, remember?
You like the oysters, are going to come over. That's not a problem. But the whole concept of this place is to give people variety, give them a whole nother thing to come to Margate for. Now, listen, you've all been there. You see what the block is like.
What when you say, what are you talking about in terms of price point?
Oh, you know we always use quality food. He's been there. So this is going to be the same kind of quality food, but it's going to be a good price point where everybody can enjoy it. You can take your kids there, you know, a whole family can come and sit in there and eat reasonable. And that's the whole thing with Johnny's, Shuckers, and now this new place. It's a place that people can go and they don't have to pay the, you know, first mortgage payment to get out of there. You know what I mean?
John, the concept of connecting the building to Shuckers, that your idea, how does that help or how does that enhance the business operation and the efficiency of the business operation?
Well, doing the connection is very smart. First of all, we got that little alley there, which all night long we got the cameras there. There's people running through, kids, everybody trying to cross over. Now it'll be blocked off, and we'll be able to maintain it better. Being that we have the crossover, all the restaurants are connected. If a guy like Raj Rubens comes in and he wants something from over there, my people can run it through. Besides, we got more storage, and we don't have to build any more storage sheds out back. It's just it's all around win to build that little connection.
Now, we talked a little bit about the parking situation and understanding that with Shuckers and with Johnny's and now with Tipsy Taco, parking is not the most desirable situation that it could be. But from your standpoint, for the limited number of weekends a year that it gets super crowded, I mean, does it work?
Yeah, the parking works. I mean, we do have a lot of off-street parking down our end, but as everybody knows, July and August, there's no parking anywhere on the island. Being that I got the parking lot across the street, and I do have tenants, sometimes 4 and 5 on a Saturday night, they do move them cars around pretty good. So we do get a lot of cars off the street with the lot.
Generally the hours of operation, what do you anticipate? And I know that some board members will have questions because there is a bar as part of the concept.
Well, just like Shuckers, we run 11 to 11. If anybody's seen Shuckers, I mean, the latest we were open there was like 12 o'clock at night. It's not a nightclub, it's not entertainment, it's a place you go and enjoy yourself. Little house music, the hours will be 11 to 11, 7 days a week.
John, what's your experience been with the number of employees for an operation like this, retainage of employees, and who are you looking to hire for the restaurant?
Well, everybody knows. We have a great summer crowd that always comes back. We got all the college kids. They go away and they come back. It works out perfect because in the winter we can't lose them. But I anticipate about 125 employees over the summer between the 3 restaurants. And in the winter, we only do about 60. But it's just another employee to give back to the community of Margate by hiring the Margate kids. And they all come in, from bus people, the food runners, the waiters, bartenders. It's a win-win situation.
Chris, John, so you're saying that you're going to be 11, 7 days a week. And you set that in stone?
That's, well, don't hold me to 11. People eating, I'm not going to throw them out. But I'm not looking to stay up until 2, 3 in the morning, that's for sure.
How's the board want to look at that? Do we want to set an hour, or can we?
Jimmy,
Can't set an hour.
It's a permitted use. You understand, if it's a use variance, there'd be some concern about maybe you can enforce it. And hours of operation.
Chris.
I think when we were here for Shuckers, John said the same thing. John said, I don't see the place being open much later than 11, 12. And that's really how it's worked out.
Chris, I think, or John, I think that to Clem's point, the only thing we're really talking about are 8 seats on the sidewalk at a bar. So, in which I have no problem with, but at 11 o'clock, those 8 seats you could actually set an hour for now, and because you have bar seats which you can keep open inside. I don't care if you stay open till 2, 3 in the morning on the inside, but outside of, after 11, that's where the drunks and the people hang out. So maybe just to mitigate what they're trying to get to is, we're only talking about 8 little bar seats there.
You take the bar stools away, but you're still going to have outside seating there. You're still going to have tables, Tom.
Or you could just slide
Close the outside?
just slide the vents down, or...
I'm sorry, no, I can't do that.
Well, first of all,
Shuckers could be open until 2 o'clock in the morning with the same exact...
Right, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that if you just eliminate those after a certain hour, so you're not having a bar on the sidewalk, it just...
The bar stools, I mean, still
Just
have
the bar
tables out
stools.
there? I mean, I can talk to John.
Oh, I'm not talking about tables at all.
Okay.
We're just talking about 8 bar
I was
stools.
talking to John about that. Not ready to say?
Don't give it up.
Tommy, that's really inside. Those seats are inside his property. They're inside his property.
No, they're on the outside of the building.
No.
No, they're not.
They are
Outside the building, but on the
They are well
property.
within the property lines.
They're within the property.
But they're on the outside of the wall of the building. Bars.
Yes, they are.
So what was your answer?
Yes, they are. Just like the seats, at Louis Freeman's place along the wall there. They are actually within those property lines. But they're allowed to be, they can be there whenever they want.
No, they
At
can't.
Bogan. Take a look at it.
I did, and they came and cited him because after 10:30, what was it, 10 o'clock at night, he had to take them in.
That's for the
But
sidewalk.
I'm
That's
not,
for the sidewalk.
I'm not talking about any of the outside seating, just the bar stools, that's all.
I understand.
Because Clem made a good point that if you have a drunken bar on the sidewalk at night, on the inside he can handle it, on the outside it can be a problem.
If he put 2 4-tops right out front of that, is that okay with you?
Okay.
What would be the difference?
Where's the difference?
I mean, if he put 2 4-tops out there that were 42 inches high,
Yes. It's a renaissance.
You follow
It's
what
a
I'm saying,
look
Clem?
we're trying to create.
Made a good point. That's
if he put 2 42-inch high tops out there, that's bar height, 42,
It's different.
and sat them out there, what would be the difference if you sat at a counter?
Can I get a yes or no vote from the board right now to stop this? Is anybody interested in limiting those 8 outside, or those 8 inside the property line seats? Say yes.
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 Okay, well, let's continue.
And for this particular restaurant, John, you have how many additional employees?
like I said, we should have about another 45 employees, give or take, any given day.
And generally, your hours of operation for this restaurant will be?
11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
That's kitchen hours, basically?
Kitchen hours.
You've read Mr. Rubin's report and conditions with respect to working with Mr. Adler for recycle grease traps. You'll do that
Absolutely.
and have done that for all the restaurants?
All the restaurants.
Understand that you need approval for a expansion to this part of the property?
Yes, yes.
And the landscape screening of the walk-in box along the Adams Avenue side, that's okay with you?
Yes.
That's all I have, Mr. Patterson, members of the board.
I have a question for Stan. Hey, Stan. Even though if the board were to approve this, and the police department, or wherever the ABC, denied him his application to serve, that would be on them. It wouldn't
No, we don't have jurisdiction over the liquor issue. They have to go through the proper requirements to get the expansion to the other restaurant. It has nothing to do with the planning board. We're just doing planning and zoning issues, site plan issues, and it looks like 2 variances, just coverage and the sign height above the wall. That's really all we're deciding.
That's all I have, Mr. Travis, members of the board. John and Pete are here. Anybody has any additional questions?
Anyone here from the public like to comment? Please step forward and be sworn in. I will. Watch this. Mike, use the mic.
Yes, we're actually waiting on the attorney. He's not here. I don't know how far we could go on with this tonight. Is there by any chance it could be postponed until the attorney comes in? Because we got a big parking issue on Ventnor Avenue right there.
You what?
We have a big parking issue on Ventnor Avenue.
Well, this is the public. You can answer that. He wants to wait for his attorney to come here and postpone this.
No, I don't think at this point
Why
that
not?
we can do that.
Why not?
Because this is noticed, there's a time for it, and if an attorney was hired, they need to be here for the time that
Yeah,
we're here
he
for the
was hired,
public.
yes.
Well, I understand that, but he needs to be here at the time the meeting is going on.
We've got
Is there a
4 more
reason
cases.
that, like, you know when he's going to be here? Is there estimated time
Can
he's
it
going
be
to be here?
postponed till next week?
No, because we only have meetings once a month, so.
Postpone it for next month.
We're booked through February.
Let's go to February. I have no
Well,
problem
we're
with
not
that.
going to do that.
All right, the board will have to vote on that, but I mean, whether or not they want to postpone it.
It's only fair for us businesses to speak up. That's there also.
You're here to speak up, and you
can
say
do
your
that if
piece,
you
but we
want.
can't wait for somebody else to come.
Attorney?
There's a time period to speak, and he's not here.
Michael?
Fire your attorney.
Michael, you have your concerns with your business. I think you can present that, and they will be more than willing to hear what your concerns are at this
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, we're not foreclosing. You can say what you need to say.
But the first, with
And then you
respect
go
to
to the peer attorney.
Lucio, the parking situation, he's got 2 parking lots next to me, which only allows about 24, 25 cars to park. He's got that for the 2 restaurants that he's existently running, Shuckers and Johnny's Cafe. Now he's adding the other restaurant, which is going to be another 14 to 20 more car parking. Where's that going to go? It's bad enough in the summertime, it's packed, the sidewalks, double parking. I mean, I have customers also that come in, pick up. People sitting aside. Where are all these people going to park? And the other thing about the alcohol, what about all the late nights fights, the bars, the drunks, the loud noise? If the board wants to vote for this to go on, go for it.
Are you saying there's late-night fights at Chuckers? Is that...
Oh, sure, every night.
Well, I'm asking. I'm not down there.
Yes, there's fights, there's drinking going on, loud noise. It's been happening. I mean, I have two parking spots in front of my business, and that's 15 minutes, and I can't even get my customers to park there because they're too busy taking up for 2 to 3 hours by customers going to the bar, drinking, or anything like that. So what about me that's been there for 15 years?
If it is 15-minute parking, you have every right to call the police department, and they will tow
I
it?
have 4 or 5 times a night, I have.
And do they tow?
About 2 or 3 times it's been towed cars out of there.
Okay, because that is your right as a property owner and 15-minute parking, that be abided by.
I mean, the jurisdiction of the board really isn't to enforce the parking. It's not the board, up to the board. But and I know that they understand your concern, and it's a valid concern. But from the standpoint of what this board does, that's, if someone's parked longer than they should be or in an illegal spot, you have the absolute right to have that enforced. So
how are you going to add 80 more seats without parking? A few years back, I added 5 tables in my place, and I had to remove the tables out of my store because there was not enough ample parking. And Mr. Roger Rubin, you were there that time with DD.
Well, that's one thing the board's going to have to weigh as to with the parking issue, whether it's going to go on. But you got to remember too, we're in a shore town, and all the communities that I represent along, up and down the Ventnor and Margate.
They have to understand that there's other
problems with
businesses.
parking.
There's other businesses that survive there year-round also. It's not just across the street from me.
I understand. I guess our argument is that they already, he purchased probably at pretty large expense a lot that he uses that I don't see a lot of other businesses have there. So that's what their argument is, that to minimize the effect or the how serious the parking issue is by buying that lot and having a lot there. That's one of their arguments that they're saying should weigh in their favor, that they've done that already, which a lot of properties haven't.
Right, but if you're talking about the parking that's next to me for the two businesses existing, how are you going to allow a third business to use the same two parking spots with only 25 parking spots? It doesn't make sense.
That's what the board's going to have to decide, I understand.
I hope
Well,
they decide.
what the applicant is telling us is that the parking lot that there is used by 3 businesses, and what the board has, or what Roger Rubin has determined is that the number of parking spaces required for these businesses is actually decreasing, not increasing. Between the candy store and Johnny Steaks, there's less parking required, so according to Margate's or the state's parking regulations, this should be less problem. I'm not saying it's logical, it's government work.
24 parking spots for 3 restaurants doesn't add up.
Well, that's what's there right now.
That's what's there right now is for two existing businesses, the parking.
Johnny's doesn't count?
Nope.
Johnny Steaks doesn't count?
No, that was a takeout, people pull up and go. That parking
And how many
spots-
spaces were they required to have?
None, because there were none. Mr. Januzzi,
No, I mean-
there is no parking variance. This board is not considering a parking variance. According to the ordinance, the parking is legal for this new restaurant. There's
Legal,
no...
how are you going to fit?
There's no, it does, look, you could say, where's your parking? What did you do to create parking? Nothing, because you couldn't. You're trying to run a business, you make do with the street parking. The Family Bricks organization bought extensive land and created some parking.
Or Shuckers.
Well, they didn't have to buy it for anything. They just bought it because they wanted the restaurants to do well. You were not able to do that, unfortunately. Our ordinance is set up so there is no parking variance for this new facility. And that's what the board has to consider.
I hope the board considers it right. Thank you.
Just before you go, maybe what you want to do is go to a commission meeting and ask the commissioners if they would, through the police department, take those 15-minute spaces that service your store, since it's for pickup and delivery, and have them dedicated to pickup and delivery.
I tried, but what they're doing is, there's people out there marking their own lines on the sidewalk, on the street.
Yeah, but if it's just for pickup and delivery, it doesn't have to be a...
Well, I've never heard of a pickup and delivery space. I've heard of
They do.
a
They have-
Yes, it's called a loading zone, 15-minute loading zone, yes.
It's the same.
It's for deliveries, for food distributors that come in and go.
Good idea. Talk to the police chief, and maybe they'll do that.
All right, thank you.
He's done it for other people in the same position that come
Wouldn't that-
before the board.
Excuse me, wouldn't that, if somebody had stopped to go run back and get some bagels, wouldn't those spots be good for them?
Yes, yes, it is. It's all, actually, they could use that spot for, if they wanted to go to Shuckers, Johnny's Cafe, or anywhere else. It's for 15 minutes only, not for 2 to 3 hours. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Public portion is closed. Any other questions from the board? Mike? Your mic's on, I just thought maybe that's... Is there any conditions?
Yes.
Landscaping by the box.
Revised plans to show, 3-foot landscaping strip in front of the new walk-in box. That's the only plan change. And the trash to be supervised under the recycle officer. The sign is a variance that they're requesting. I have no problem with it because the shape of the building, it has different kind of projections up and down, and this is just another projection. They could just as well build the wall up, and then the sign would comply with the new wall, and that wall could be built up legally without any variances. So I have no problem.
Hear a motion with those conditions?
I make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Tom Collins?
I think that the proposed project is probably going to increase a little traffic and parking in the city. I'm really not thrilled with the bar seats sitting on the outside, but as an overall project, I think what Johnny's done in the area, and it's going to bring more business in even for Mr. Januzzi, I think it's a revitalization and an ongoing good thing for the business district. I don't see the parking as that much of a negative impact. We're already overparked, and people just walk. They don't move their cars. So I vote for it.
Clem Wozleski?
The overall concept is good. I don't have any problem with it. The outdoor bar seating, I don't particularly like, but I suppose it becomes a policing problem. I don't go out much at night anymore, so I don't know what goes on there. That one gentleman from across the street indicates that there are problems. I hope we're not heading back to the Barbary Coast days of the 60s.
You want to explain that to people that don't know what it is?
These kids, they don't understand. Another reluctant yes.
Mike Richmond?
As far as the site plan goes, I think that it'll actually add to the aesthetics of the neighborhood. The building coverage is de minimis because the area that's being closed is virtually, you can't even see it from the street. And the sign variance, I don't think that's going to have any negative impact on the neighborhood, so I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
For the site plan, I see that maybe Januzzi will be helped out because now he won't be selling the steaks anymore, and now that operation will move over to the Januzzis. I think they need to be good neighbors amongst themselves and help out with their parking issues. Maybe they can come to an agreement where how that's going to be utilized, that 15-minute spot, without calling the police. I'd rather see that than upset some patrons. For the C variance, for the coverage and the signage, I don't see that being an issue, and I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
15 years ago, nobody even worried about parking at that end of town. It was dead. You can park anywhere you want. I don't think people anymore worry about the parking. If you're going to put that much money into a building and hope that people are going to come, I think you're doing the right thing for the town. So I vote yes.
David Carter?
I vote yes. It's kind of an improvement over an improvement. And if you look at the situation, if it closed and the candy store closed and it sat there for a couple of years, it wouldn't be so nice. So I think it's an improvement, and I vote yes.
Joe DiGirolamo?
I think it's a great project. It's kind of a great renaissance taking place in that end of town. I think Family Brick has done a really nice job of cleaning up some of that area in there that previously didn't always have the best look. And even Januzzi's, it did do some renovations to its property as well on the interior. So that whole area is really stepping up. I agree with Jim Galantino about maybe there's an opportunity for Januzzi's and Family Brick to work together on that parking issue. I don't see any problem with that, the bar seating that is inside, and based on my hospitality and restaurant experience, really the proprietor's got to be able to be responsible for any type of rowdiness or anything that should arrive from drunkenness that occurs. And I don't think the proprietor is going to want that to happen, so I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
I agree with angry Mike Cristaldi. I vote yes.
The application passes 8-0.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
People normally want one lot for tax purposes.
Board is back in session. The next case is Morton and Barbara Spiegel, 9 South Pembroke Avenue, Block 116, Lot 3.02, in the S40 District to grant a C variance for rear setback, building coverage, possibly landscaping, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin? I do. The subject property is a 2.5-story single-family house on a lot of 50 by 80. The applicants wish to append an elevator to the rear wall per the plans of Mark Zawacki, architect, for service from the ground to the first and second floors. The structure at grade would be 9 feet 11 inches wide by 5 feet 5.5 inches deep out from the rear wall, and it would narrow at the top to 5.5 by 5.5 feet, ending with a peaked roof 23.5 feet above grade, which is about 6.5 feet below the top of the house. The application does not explain why they want the elevator, so this should be presented at the hearing via testimony. To allow access to this elevator per the site plan, an addition to the pathway is proposed, and the steps from the rear landing are reversed, as the elevator would go where the steps are now. The variance required is for rear setback 16 feet required, compared to 11 feet 4 inches to the elevator structure as described. Comments. Even with the increased paving in the rear, landscaping meets the required 35%, and there are no side setback or coverage issues. Second, the balance of the house slightly exceeds the required rear setback at 16.9 feet. 3, there are visual buffers as follows. The rear garage wall of the house to the rear. The house to the right has a large blank wall projecting far into the rear yard, and there is extensive landscape coverage on the other side. 4, the overall building coverage is 2% less than allowed, even when you calculate the elevator as additional coverage. No conditions are suggested at this time.
For the record, Dave Carter has recused himself from this case. We cannot wait for lawyers. I think you're here for...
Where is Chris? Chris!
Proceed without
You want to be sworn in while you're...
Sure. My name is Mark Zawacki. I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey. Yes, I do. Chris is not here, so I'll start the procedures.
Let's go with why they need the elevator or whatever. That was Roger's questions.
What we have here is we have seniors. Okay, they're in their 70s, late 70s. They're getting elderly. They're having problems getting up to their bedroom and into the house. Okay, there's a lot of steps right now to enter into the house. So the idea, after serving the house and the conditions, the least offensive location was in the rear. Any place else that we would put would be offensive, it would be noticeable. Plus the fact there's a large wall in the back here that you have to, when I try to take these pictures, I had to actually hop over the wall. So this would be the right location for it. It worked out that we have windows, that we could take these windows out here and incorporate the elevator shaft. And the reason why we need this additional space to the left or right, whichever way you're standing, is for the mechanical for the pump system for the elevator shaft.
That's next to the elevator shaft?
That's correct. So the ideal situation, of course, is to have those hydraulic pumps as close as they can to the elevator for them to work properly. As you can see...
What's the elevation of the mechanics? Is that at ground level?
No, the mechanicals will be raised on a platform. It says right here that the mechanical room will be elevated to the first floor elevation. So it will be...
The hydraulics will be up.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So everything will be at the flood elevation 11. The existing house is at elevation 11. Like I said, it's really a real small addition. It's really a functional addition that is needed by the client. And I'll let Chris take it over from here.
Okay. Finish, Chris? Yeah. Touch on the variances for the... Did you?
I just explained
the additional.
why we want.
Did you have the variance been touched upon?
Yes, they have.
I have
No, they haven't. Have they?
nothing.
Yes, we did.
Did you walk the perimeter and just make sure?
He did.
Yes.
Yes.
It's pretty
Yes.
easy, it's
Any
self-explanatory.
comments or questions from the board? Anyone here from the public have any comments or questions? Public portion is closed. Question?
Any conditions?
Comment?
No.
No conditions.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
I'll second it.
Can I second it?
2 seconds.
Tom Collins?
Understandably why the elevator is needed, you answered the question. The actual variances here are very de minimis. You did a very nice job in hiding them behind the building. I see no negative impacts to the neighborhood, neighbors, or for anything that would be negative to the city, so I vote favor.
Clem Wisleski?
Tom said everything I was thinking. I vote yes.
I think Tom said everybody should agree with Tom and just say what they feel, yes or no.
Yeah, great.
Mike Richmond?
I think the addition is very de minimis, and it serves a good purpose, so I vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
I'm sorry. I vote yes for this application, and thank you, and well represented.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mike Cristaldi?
I vote yes because he didn't put the mechanicals up in the attic.
Joe DiGirolamo?
I vote yes, along with the other reasons that the other board members have said, agreed to.
Rich Patterson?
I vote yes because of what Tom
The
said.
application passes 7-0.
Thank you, thank you. Have a good holiday. You phony. I'll see you guys next week, next month.
Next case is Richard and Ava Lubert, 7 South Claremont Avenue, Block 103.02, Lot 14, in the S25 district for C variance for third floor deck, right side setback, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. Subject property is a 2.5-story single-family house on a lot of 60 by 62 and a half. The house, per the hand-drawn plan by the owner, has 2 third-level bedrooms, and they wish by this application to place a deck in front, accessed by the front bedroom, for medical reasons and other reasons set forth in the narrative. As the house was built in 2003 under previous zoning laws, it has a deficient right side setback of 9 feet, while 10 is now required. The proposed deck would replace the roof of the existing second-floor deck, be niched in the right front corner, and have dimensions of 16 feet 8 inches wide by 8 feet deep. Variances required are third-floor decks, which are not permitted, and right side setback 10 feet is required. It's 9 to the proposed deck. Comments. This appears to be the only house on this side of the block with a third living level, so the possibility of this setting a trend is not great, especially since most of the houses are relatively new. Second, across the street there are third-floor decks facing this side on almost all the condominium units at about the same elevation as the proposed. 3, the proposed third-floor deck would not be covered, so building mass is not perceptibly increased from existing second-floor deck roof line. 4, valid medical issues can be legitimate criteria for board action. 5, the proposed deck is accessed via a bedroom, not a public hallway or family room, so is unlikely to be utilized for parties or other noisy activities. No conditions suggested at this time.
Richard Lubert. Hi. Good evening. Thank you for your time, Board. I appreciate it. Richard Lubert. My wife, Ava, apologizes. She can't be here. She's taking care of my mother-in-law, Claire Persky, who's lived in the area for decades. So she couldn't be here tonight. We're expecting my mother-in-law to be moving in with us, and this is primarily going to be her room, her deck. We're the only full-time residents on Claremont. We have the condos across the street, everybody else on our side is summer people, so we're really the only one there all year long, and we're trying to make this a good living arrangement for my mother-in-law when she moves in. And as we did this, we wanted to make sure that anybody on the third floor also had a way of getting off safely from the third floor, and the deck would give an ability to get somebody off of the third floor. We wanted to make sure it would be as invisible as possible, so it's recessed into the house. You can't see the deck from, if you're looking at the house, any of the houses on the left-hand side, and even any of the houses on the right-hand side. Our neighbor to the right-hand side would be the only one who would see the third floor deck, but they would already see the second floor deck. They have no windows on that side that we can see into from the deck, so we wouldn't be able to see into anybody's house or make it an untenable living arrangement for anybody to the sides of us or across the street in the condos. And as Roger said, the condos pretty much all have third floor decks and roof decks that are above the height that this deck would be put at. There'll be no additional noise. My kids are out of the house. It's just my wife and myself, and will be my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law does have a chronic condition, and actually my wife does as well, so I think they'll both get good use out of this deck. They can't get to, my mother-in-law can't get to the beach at all. My wife has got Crohn's and fibromyalgia, so she has difficulty getting back and forth, even though we're close to the beach. If you know anything about it, it's a little bit problematic with those medical conditions of being able to spend a lot of time away from the house. So I'm hoping for your consideration of allowing us to convert essentially the roof that's there right now into a deck and move forward with that.
Any questions, board? Clem?
And what, Roger?
Tom, go ahead.
Roger, could he build a solid room there if it met the setback without a variance?
Yeah. Well, no, he'd still need...
I would still need the right side
He would need the
setback.
side variance.
No, I meant if he brought it in that
Yes.
little bit. And that room
I don't
could be
understand
used,
what you're saying.
instead of an open deck.
Right.
He could, by right, build an enclosed room. Bringing
With
in
open
the
walls?
2 feet.
With open walls?
Well, with all glass walls, which would be used year-round, instead of
Right.
just the good weather. So it would have even more impact. than
And that would
the-
have more impact, is what you're saying.
Remember the old...
I purposely tried to do this. The reason there's no roof is so that there's no additional mass. So essentially the roof of the mass of the roof is the same as the deck would be. So we tried to make sure that we were not going to hinder what we've already
Yeah, I
have in
think
the
that's
house.
what he's saying, is you're doing a good
Right,
thing.
Right, I guess I could have built the whole room, but we didn't want to do
Right.
that from an aesthetics perspective.
That would have been much worse, and it would have been legal. Yes.
And very visible by the
Yes.
neighbors and across the street.
Yeah, but you could have done it without a variance if you had just set it
I
up.
could have, yes, I could have done that without a variance.
Yeah. Tom?
Are you really going to make poor Claire walk up to the third floor every day?
Claire?
Well, she can't get down.
I know she walks through the neighborhood every
She
day.
walks through the neighborhood, and she's good in the morning, and, but, you know, I think there's days, unfortunately, that she can't get around quite as good as she did even a few months ago. So, if you know, my wife, one of 3 sisters, but we're lucky enough to be able to take care of her.
No other questions from the, Mike, do you have a question? What? You had a concern about locking someone on the third floor, was that? Okay, okay. Anyone from the, any public comment, any questions? Public portion is closed. Any other questions from the board? There's no conditions or anything here?
I have none.
Jim, would you make a motion?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Tom, would you second the motion? Tom did?
Tom Collins?
Actually, I like what you did. I think this is very de minimis, the neighborhood that you're in. The only thing I don't like is now Claire won't be walking by my house, taking her daily walks every day, but I'll still see her when she comes in the store. I don't see any negative impacts. I think you really took your time and did this so it would be good for the city and the neighborhood, and I admire you for doing that. I vote in favor.
Clem Osleski?
The existing decks in the complex across the street have much more impact on the neighborhood than this ever would. It's a non-problem. I vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, I agree with Clem. I mean, this third floor deck actually fits into the neighborhood pattern with all those third floor decks across the street, so I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
Rich, where's Bill going to take a shower now? He was using Claire's shower there for a while when he was working on the house up the street.
I guess you could have to find a new place.
I don't see the deck being a problem, and I approve the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
I vote yes.
David Carter? Rich Patterson?
Well, there's always the concern of a trend of third-floor decks, but I think with your medical reasons and the condos across the street, this has nothing to do with anywhere else in the city, and I think it has minimal impact. So I vote yes.
Application passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Will you come sign, please?
Next case is Lisa and Louis Magazoo, 9517 Ventnor Avenue, Block 229, Lot 46, in the C2 district, to grant a D variance for residential first floor in a new building in the C2 zone, and C variances for side and front setbacks, possibly building coverage and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. Yes, I do. The subject property is a two-story duplex with 2 residential units, which is proposed to be demolished and replaced with a new two-story duplex per the plans of Peter Weiss. The parcel is 50 by 95, or 4750 square feet, exceeding the minimum required land for a duplex of 3,200 square feet. Each unit would be 2 stories, side by side, and each would have 3 bedrooms and 3 parking spaces, a total of 2 more spaces than required. Height would be 27 feet 8 inches above the required first floor of 13, and each unit would have first and second floor front decks on Madison. The variances required are first, front setback on Madison. The average comes to 28.3, the 200-foot average, as compared to the 16 feet designed. This is one of those corner lots with a depth from Madison Avenue back of only 50 feet compared to 125 feet most of the block up to Winchester, and in fact 250 feet for the lot next door, which runs street to street. If this new building were to comply with the 200-foot front average as required, along with the required 8-foot side yard, they could build a railroad car of a house at 13 feet 8 inches wide, not something contemplated by Margate zoning or anything that would be appropriate in this neighborhood. Additionally, consider that the duplex being demolished is only 11.7 feet back, so this is an improvement of at least 4 feet. Side setback, actually the rear of the duplex because of where the front is, but it is a side in terms of zoning. It is supposed to be 8 feet but drawn at 6 feet. This abuts the end of the L-shaped condominium complex, which does have windows, and the board needs to base its decision on site visits and relative impacts per those observations. Consider also the mitigating factors. Coverage is low at 40% compared to 45% permitted. The house setback on Ventnor Avenue at 13.5 feet exceeds the 5 feet required. Parking exceeds the requirement, and both front and total landscape area exceed the requirement by at least 10%. Ignore item number 4. It is not a D variance. It's not a use variance. I had previous conversation with Mr. Goldstein, the attorney, a few months ago, in which I did some research and determined that in May of 2011, the zoning board had given a D or use variance when at that time it was a real estate office to return the first floor to a residence by a vote of 6-0. That being the case, the D variance runs with the land, and the permission for 2 units is given. There's no variance for the residents on the first floor, so that's not an issue. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicant, Lou and Lisa Magazoo. Mr. and Mrs. Magazoo are here tonight if the board wishes to hear testimony from them. But first, Peter Weiss is going to testify as to the proposed construction and development of the project. So Pete, even though you've been sworn, please come up and be sworn once again.
Peter Weiss?
So the plan is what you prepared with the applicant.
The lot is 50 foot by 95 feet running along Madison Avenue. As Roger mentioned, all the lots going north towards the bay are deeper, generally 125 foot deep, which creates the issue with the front setback along Madison. What we propose to do is to demolish the existing duplex and develop a new duplex, which is a side-by-side building with townhouse units on either side. The ground floor will be parking and storage with an entry area. There will be an elevator in each unit, a residential elevator that's accessed from grade. The first floor is the living space, living, dining, kitchen, a den area, and the utilities, and a deck off of Madison Avenue. And the second floor has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and another deck off Madison Avenue. The building or the units themselves are about 1,890 square feet on the upper floors. And that's about it.
Do you see any deficit construction of the barracks of the project?
No, as Roger mentioned, the existing building is already closer to Madison Avenue than what we are proposing. The side yard along the adjacent building on the east, even though we are requesting 6 feet, there is still 11 feet between the buildings. And looking at this building, it appears that there's 2 units here that are accessed from grade. There's 2 doors, which are solid doors. And the units appear to be front and back, and they're generally oriented towards the street and towards the rear.
Design is to quite a bit under the
Eric, we can't hear you.
Pete, your design also takes into consideration the fact that the coverage is 5% less than the overall project could consist of 40 versus 45%, correct?
Yes.
Unless the board has any further questions for Mr. Weiss, Mr. and Mrs. Magazoo are here to testify if necessary.
Yeah, I do. Drive into this project looking at it, coming from Longport. Johnny's was just here earlier, and they're improving the area. That whole area seems to be improving. You're next to that condo or hotel on the Atlantic City side. Next to Dairy Bar, you've got those houses with a flat sides along Ventnor Avenue, and I just think you're putting up a new house here, which is awful from Ventnor Avenue. I mean, this is a new entrance, or the entrance that's being improved coming into town. It's a very nice-looking condo on the side street, but on the main street coming by, is there anything you can do to liven that up a little bit? Or I know one of the board members suggested turning one of the units towards Ventnor Avenue. I know, other board members had ideas, but I'm just expressing some board frustration with the looks of the house. The existing house, it's old and beat up, but it has nice decks facing the Ventnor Avenue, and I'm all for improving the area, but I think this is a wasted opportunity to have that area of town have a flat side of that building facing the main street.
Okay, we did discuss this earlier today. I think the idea of turning the unit probably doesn't work just because of the...
I don't know anything about construction, so that's why I left it open to something to enliven the Ventnor Avenue side. Huh?
We may have some alternatives.
Sure.
Okay, so the concept, I think, of just taking the unit and turning it doesn't really work because it's not a square unit. It would be much closer to the street than what this proposes, and it probably just wouldn't work.
Well, even on that note, though, the board may be more willing to say, we'll give you more room on that side if it looks better for the whole area, so, but continue.
So what we were considering doing was taking this elevation, which is the elevation facing Ventnor Avenue, and making it more, giving more aesthetics, if you will, a little more depth. We could take a piece of it, change the planes, project this piece out, maybe add a couple decks on this side, and do a little bit more to enliven it, if you will. So that's...
Not making it a front of the duplex, it'll have that look of the front.
This is, look, we're not supposed to judge whether something's pretty or not pretty, but this is, it's not Burke Avenue where he's, putting plain block up or whatever it was back there. I mean, this is something that is really seen and it reflects on the town.
The applicant is very conscious of that. There are some alternatives. Putting in a couple of Juliet balconies across the front, so it wouldn't be a formal deck coming all the way out, but enough relief from the side to make it look more like the front. Certainly it'll look better than the front looks now.
Peter, the pent roof coming across maybe, I mean, I don't know, just something to give some depth.
Eric, Peter, are those protrusions on the side, the decks, what depth are you proposing? Is it aesthetic, or is it going to be connected to the other deck? Is it a walkway? Is it going to be 3 foot so you can walk around?
For me, I guess if I was going to make a deck, I'd make it large enough to be usable. I mean, it's kind of silly to have a small deck. So to me, that means at least 5 feet. Did you hear me?
Yes.
I really can't.
Okay.
5 feet, he said.
I think 5 feet is a minimum.
Right.
We're trying to create, I think, some depth to the elevation, so, you need enough building there. And we can do that within, we can make addition to the building and still stay within the zoning with regards to setbacks and coverage and all that stuff. We got plenty of flexibility and the ability to do that, so, and we're willing to do that.
What are you proposing to do again?
Put your mic on.
I think initially I was talking about taking this piece, because it's already had some symmetry going to it, projecting that out a little bit, maybe putting a couple decks on it, which would mean putting doors here, sliders, or whatever.
If you project that out, are you creating another variance, or?
No, that's what I'm saying. We're well within the setbacks here, and in
good,
coverage,
okay.
we're well under coverage. So
it's going to wrap around the front of the building?
I don't know if I'd wrap it or not. I mean, that's a possibility, but I guess, it would really depend on what it looks like.
How would we on the corner?
How will we memorialize that?
Well, as Pete said, you can come all the way out to 5 feet back from the property line and not create a variance.
Right.
As long as you kept it in on the, you met the setbacks on the other two sides. I would, this is one of those deals where I would give our resident architect, maybe set up a committee of aesthetics, where you create something symmetrical that makes it look like a front. But you could have a pretty deep deck, and it would come right off of the den, which would be nice, and maybe the master bedroom, which would be nice over Ventnor Avenue.
That plus if you jazzed up the landscaping, which you're really not showing very well. Well, it's just little circles here. I see them on your plan. But if
that's a lot of landscaping.
I think there's an intention to put some shrubs along the.
I'm just saying if you jazzed it up with like reds or some things that'll pop and not just be regular landscape.
Hey, Tom, as Roger said, he'd come out another 8.5 feet on Ventnor Avenue, not creating a variance.
Well, then I think we could leave it that with the approval of Roger and me and Clem.
What kind of fish is it?
You want to?
Okay, 3-person committee.
You okay with that, Clem?
Some of this. Just make it 5 feet back. What? No, you would be approving it with the condition that it satisfy the three-person committee in terms of aesthetics.
I don't know what they're doing.
Eric, you don't have to decide now the specifics. As long as there was agreement to satisfy this committee that the board would set up, and no additional variances were created by the redesign, it could be approved if they want to approve it that way.
He has some good ideas, he just wants to throw out of it.
Sure.
I didn't really have anything to add. Well, we talked about that.
Pete, since we're going to have to look at it anyway, why don't you take your time and put something together and come back? I mean, we'll pass it tonight contingent on that, and then...
And it's going to be to a three-man review committee.
Right. You don't sit here guessing now what you might do. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Is anyone here from the public that would like to comment or speak? Public portion is closed. Stan, would you read this?
The variances that I read them on Roger's report are front yard setback to Madison Avenue, required 28.3 feet, proposed 16 feet. Side yard setback 8 feet, required 6 feet proposed. The condition will be that any redesign that would not include any more variances will be approved by a committee set up by the board today.
Yep. On the Ventnor Avenue side.
For the Ventnor Avenue side.
Your motion?
Tom Collins?
I think with the changes that have been made to the Ventnor Avenue elevation of the property, I don't really see any major detriments to the neighborhood. We are improving, upgrading, and replacing old, which is always good for Margate, and it's a benefit to the city, so I vote in favor.
Clem Oslowski?
Overall, I think it's a decent project. I don't think the Madison Avenue setback is as bad as it sounds, because I think there's an error on the survey. And the zoning requirements relative to 11 North. So with the condition mentioned, I vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
I think that it's a good idea to dress up that side of the property, and if that's going to happen, which I guess is going to happen to get approval, I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
I don't see any detriment to this application. I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
With the improvements that they're planning for and having a group look at it, I think it's a good project. I vote yes.
David Carter?
I vote yes, based on the improvement, and we're going to consider some changes on the Ventnor Avenue side.
Rich Patterson?
I commend the applicant for being flexible in this and agreeing to the improvements, so I vote yes.
Application passes 7-0.
And we commend the board. Your input's very important. It's the kind of project where we're looking at it one way, you're looking at it a different way, and this is going to be a great construction project in the end. So, thank you.
Is that the last one? Oh, this one. Next case. Last case, Brett Fisher, 9315 Monmouth Avenue, Block 427.02, Lot 90 in the MF District, to grant a C variance for lot width, building coverage, side setbacks, combined setbacks, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin.
Roger Rubin. Yes. The subject property is an older flood-damaged duplex on a lot of 37.5 by 125, 4,687.5 square feet, upon which a new flood-compliant duplex is proposed to be constructed 2 stories above, at-grade garages and storage, per the submitted plans of Peter Weiss, architect. The duplex would contain 2 units, 1 on each floor, each having 3 bedrooms, and no 3rd floor. Front porches are shown and rear patios covered by the building. The first habitable floor is at a compliant elevation 13, and thereafter rises 28 feet to the peak, 2 feet below the height allowance of 30. Extensive landscaping and street trees are shown. The variances required are lot width. 40 feet is required. This is only 37.5. Building coverage, 32% is permitted. They're asking for 33. Combined side setbacks, 13.9 feet required versus 10 feet 2 inches. Distance to a principal building on an adjoining lot, 10 feet is required, whereas it is 7 feet 4.5 inches between this proposed structure and the duplex to the left. Comments. As to lot width, this is a deficiency that cannot be overcome by purchasing additional land. It is not available. 2, as to the building coverage, the applicant should explain why 47 square feet of coverage cannot be eliminated. However, the board should consider 2 compensating factors. The height being 2 feet lower than required creates a significantly lower overall mass than, say, a coverage-compliant building at full height. Also, the open rear patio at grade counts for coverage because of the building above, but its openness is significant to houses on the sides and rear. 3rd, as to the combined side setbacks, first, each of the individual setbacks meets the 5-foot minimum, a rarity in an undersized lot. Secondly, the right side setback for the most part is actually 7 feet, but for the projecting stairways, so the effective combined setback number is really a bit over 12 on the right side. Finally, regarding the distance between buildings, this could be improved upon, if not eradicated, by sliding the building 1 or 2 feet to the right, which would help the house to the left without doing undue harm to the right side house. It would create a right side variance, but even if slid 2 feet, the bulk of the house would still be 5 feet on the right and over 14 feet to the house to the right. Of course, you might also consider that the house to the left may be a tear down sometime in the near future, and this may be moot. Overall, this flood-compliant building is attractive, improves parking, is lower than allowed, has much more landscaping than required, and a much larger front setback than required. No additional conditions are suggested at this time.
Good evening, Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicant Brett Fisher. Pete Weiss is with me tonight. He's been sworn already, but I know he has to be sworn again. So Pete, step up. Sworn.
Weiss?
All right, Pete, if you would please take the microphone and walk us through the project.
The lot, as you heard, is a little bit undersized, being 37.5 feet wide, but it's deep at 125 feet, so the overall area of the lot is fairly substantial. What we propose to do is demolish the existing building, which is a duplex, and construct a new duplex, which will be similar to a couple of other projects we've done over on Decatur Avenue, I believe. The ground floor would be all parking and storage with 2 and possibly 3 parking spaces inside, and then 2 street parking spaces in the driveway in front of the garage. The upper floors are flats, meaning 1 unit on each floor. They both have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and the living space is oriented towards the street with covered decks, fairly large covered decks on each floor. I'll go a little bit more. The siding, we're proposing vinyl siding, and then the ground floor would be a combination of stone and culture stone and stucco.
Do you see any detriment to the granting of the variances if the board does so versus the benefit of the new construction of the project? I'm sorry. Pete, do you see any detriment to the board granting these variances tonight, in your professional opinion?
No, I think the...
You said no?
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Applicant rest, thank you.
Seeing no questions from the board, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak?
That's Mr. Fisher, I'm sure he doesn't want to speak.
He doesn't want to
unless the board
speak.
has questions.
The public portion is closed. Any other comments from the board? Would you read the motion? Was there any conditions? No conditions. Can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the application as presented.
Tom Collins?
This is again a very interesting case. We have a house in a neighborhood that really needs to be renovated, remodeled, demoed. Mr. Fisher does an excellent job. I've seen numerous projects of his in town, first-class quality, cares about the city. I think this is going to be nothing but a major improvement to the neighborhood. I think it's going to continue a trend, and other homes in the neighborhood will follow suit, so I vote in favor.
Clem Oslewski?
Yeah, there are so many more positives about this than all the negatives of the existing structure. I vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, I totally agree with Tom, and I hope that this project spurs on other projects in the neighborhood, like the place next door on the corner.
Jim Galantino?
Approve this application.
Mike Cristaldi?
I agree with Mr. Galantino. I also
David
approve.
Carter? Rich Patterson?
Yeah, I agree with everybody.
The application passes 7-0.
I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
It's good to go last.
It's not bad tonight.
Who seconds that motion?
I do.
Boy, good work.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Take some candy.